Welcome back. You're watching Newslink. Now, grocery delivery Zulzi is growing its footprint across the country. Zulzi started as an e-commerce platform in 2013 before expanding into selling groceries from different retailers in 2016. Now the company has launched a fundraising drive in order to open more dark stores across the country. So those are warehouses from which customers can make their online purchases and get their deliveries in about 10 to 15 minutes. And it works. I use it almost every single day. We've got one of the co-founders, Donald Valoyi, joining us in the studio. Thank you very much for your time today. I mean, the intro briefly talks about the history of Zulzi, but just your account on the journey that you've had so far. Tell us a little bit about Zulzi and how it came about that you are here in 2023 with the business that you've been able to grow.
No, thank you so much, and thank you for having me, and a good morning to all the viewers out there. So yeah, Zulzi started in 2013 as an e-commerce platform where we used to sell books and electronics online, and then 2016 we moved to sort of like started like aggregating different retailers where we could sort of like deliver to you within 1 hour. We introduced 1 hour delivery in South Africa at the time, where we would pick from different retailers. And then at the back of that as well, we partnered with one of the biggest retailers where we helped them to build tech for them. And then yeah, 2 years ago, then we decided to become a retailer ourselves. And then that's when we sort of like launched our dark stores. A dark store is just like a warehouse where we store groceries. So by storing those groceries in our warehouse, it enabled us to be able to deliver to customers very, very, very fast. So we're able to deliver to customers within 15 minutes. How we're able to do that is because all the groceries are actually stored in our warehouse. These warehouses are actually dedicated to only online, so we don't do any other thing like offline where customers can walk in. It's only for online. Then we carry about 3,000 SKUs, and those SKUs, how they're also categorized inside the warehouse according to what are the likelihood of a customer buying bread with eggs. If those things, the chance of them happening is quite high, and then we store them next to each other. So that actually enables us to pick very quickly. So in our dark stores, we're able to pick within 2 minutes, and then the rest just delivery time, So within 15 minutes, that's how we're able to deliver to our customers.
Yeah, I mean, it's a brilliant model. And I'm just wondering, back then when you decided to launch an online platform, 2016, right? That wasn't big in South Africa. Online is still fairly new then. It is only over the last 2-3 years that we've seen a boom in online and e-commerce. How challenging was it for you to be able to grow the business at the time, but also compete in a market that really doesn't understand online yet at that point?
Yeah, I think that was just representing an opportunity. If you look back then, I think groceries were not as big as they are now, and one can always say that it's still early days, if you look at like where groceries are now, it's still early days, still less than 1% of the sales that are happening in the retail space for groceries are actually happening online. So that just tells you how early it is. Back then, I think for me, what really drove me to want to go into the space was because there was no one was doing it. And what was clear as well is if you look in the international markets like the US, UK as well, it was very clear that groceries were moving online. So it made sense for us to jump into it very quickly, before everybody could come into the space. So also like, back then, also the barriers of entry in terms of like the capital that was required to start a business like this, it was not that much. It's very different to when an industry is already like a little bit more matured, where you need to come in with a little bit more cash in order for you to be able to sort of like acquire more customers and for your brand to be known. So for us, it was very clear to us that we have to go in early while there's still no one. Most people, they want to go in when there's already a lot of
success,
when it's a success, and when it's a success, most of the time you find that it's already a little bit too late, So you sort of like have to look for categories that are not really online, where like you can also see that these categories actually even offline they do a lot more. So groceries was one of those categories that offline already was doing well, billions and billions of rands that customers spend buying groceries. So it was very clear to us that this category will have to move online. No one really enjoys going to a grocery store and pick stuff there, So it was just a matter of time, that we're going to start seeing a big shift, and we're already seeing it as well from from our customers, where you see like once they go online and try it one time, just for once, you're hooked. You know,
yeah, absolutely. So one would assume that in the peak of the COVID pandemic, many online platforms would have boomed. I assume that was the same story for Zulzi, but it was not without its challenges. Tell us about that journey.
Yeah, it was very challenging at the time, because I think for us, we were just in the middle of a transition. We actually wanted to transition to become a retailer ourselves. And then COVID stopped all those plans. So what it meant we couldn't open our warehouses. So we had to continue with a model that we already wanted to change, you know. So that model was us going to retail stores, pick from those retailers, and most of them, there was no partnership at that time, you know. So we had to continue that model. But it did help to get our brand out there. But it was really, really challenging. So things like, for instance, like customers would be ordering in big numbers. You know, like I remember, like when during COVID, for instance, we just opened for like an hour. We had to close because because of the number of orders that we'll have. We had to deal with them the entire day. You know, and at that time, also what was challenging was that when you go to a retail store, the products were not available, you know. So if something is not available, that meant you have to sort of like communicate with the customer to let them know that this product is not available. What must I do? So you can just imagine when you are doing that for each and every order. So it was quite challenging in terms of, you know, like, to fulfill those orders. So everybody was going through a lot during that time, you know, including all the retailers and ourselves as well, you know. So it was challenging. It was a little bit more challenging at the time, yeah.
Tell us where you operate, and of course, a platform like this one, it's always important to see how much of a contribution you're making to the broader economy, you know. So where you're currently operating and the jobs you've been able to create, or the opportunities that you've been able to create. Tell us about Zulzi's experience there.
Yeah, so currently, I mean, the head office, we have a team of about 100 people who work in the head office. Most of that, about 50% of that will be engineers. So we hire, I would say, top-end engineers in South Africa. That's what enables us to build a platform like this, and also support one of the biggest retail in terms of tech. And then in terms of like drivers and shoppers, because we also hire people who then do the picking in different warehouses. So currently we've got about 7 warehouses. These 7 warehouses are in Joburg North, and then Pretoria and Centurion. So in those warehouses we'll have pickers. These are the people, when you place your order, they go and pick your items. So for the pickers, I think we have about close to 70 pickers that work in those warehouses. And then we have got drivers. So in terms of our model that we operate 2 models. We've got independent drivers who come in just like a Uber drivers who can actually come and work for us as well as independent drivers. And then we have permanent drivers. Of the permanent drivers, I think we've got 75 permanent drivers. And then the rest of the guys are independent drivers. So this model have created a lot of opportunities for young people, which is something that I've been very passionate about. Not too passionate about creating jobs for people who could have got another job somewhere else, but seeing people who could not have been employed anywhere else come into the Zulzi platform. Some of them start as shoppers, and then before you know it, they progress to become warehouse managers. That has really been fulfilling for me to watch that, you know. I think Zulzi has been creating a lot of opportunities. We've been creating sustainable jobs. And we're looking forward to continue to do that. We want to continue to scale the platform. We're going big as well in terms of pharmaceuticals as well. So end of this month, you should be able to order all your pharmaceutical products using our Zulzi platform, where you can actually upload your prescription, get your medication delivered within that 15 minutes, and also pay with your medical aid. So those are some of the things that we have been working on behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, I mean, you're just creating convenience upon convenience upon convenience. It's great. With entrepreneurship, another one of the big things, and I've interviewed quite a number of people who will choose to go the road alone. You have a partner, we had a partner, Michael Nechipisa, that you worked with. You guys actually left 9-to-5 jobs to focus on this. Tell us about the role of partnership and whether you found that it added value to the growth that you see in Zulzi today.
Yeah, I mean, starting a business is very challenging, you know. I think walking the journey by yourself, it can be very tricky, you know. So for me, like, what was important was to find a partner who was going to complement you, someone where you you also get along. You know, you're not just a partner. You're like friends. You know, and for me, that's what Mike has brought into the game. You know, where we are friends, we build together, and the passion as well. We share the same passion. You know,
I'm sure there are fights.
Look, I think funny enough, we haven't had any of those. You know,
Oh, really?
Yeah, like I think we sort of like, you know, like we always on the same page most of the time. You know, there's a lot of course, convincing that happens behind the scenes to say, is this the right way of doing things? And we convince each other and we find each other, you know. But yeah, I think having a partner is very, very important, more especially in the tech space where there's just so many moving things, you know. The tech itself is changing. You need to make sure that you keep on using the latest technologies. The people as well are evolving as well. So those things, there's just a lot of things. The strategy as well must change, you know. You know, like what we used to do 3 years ago, it's no longer relevant, you know. You have to change the model. So having a partner helps you to sort of like look at those things, and someone, when they're busy looking at the strategy, the other one's also busy building something, you know. So that really helps a lot.
Okay, thank you very much for your time, and I suppose it's a good note to end it on, that partnerships do help, particularly when you are looking to grow your brand. Thank you very much. That is Donald Valoyi joining us this morning, the CEO and co-founder of Zulzi. And if you haven't downloaded the app, you really should. If you want your groceries in a quick and convenient manner, they're definitely the platform to try out.